Hello everybody, welcome back to Stoneblock 3. So today, unlike last episode, I actually want to get this going. I want to get these blocks made, I want to get them completed so that we can start actually making this look like we're not in a big stone block, as the name of the pack would imply. So for that, I made some XSET controllers. We got our flux points, or not controllers, just cables. We need to make the controllers still. And also need to work on a few machines to actually turn these raw resources into the ones that we want. So let me get started on getting those things crafted, and we will be back. So after investigating a little bit how to get blaze rods, as I realized this would quickly be a problem, there actually is a blaze rod chicken. However, for that we need, well, quite an assortment. So I'm going to go ahead and craft up a few of these chickens and maybe a couple more breeders if we have enough wheat to make the hay bales for it. And go ahead and try to get that blaze chicken started. So while crafting some of these electric motors for the stuff we'll be doing in there later, I realized something. If you put more than one chicken in, then it, well, multiplies a drop. So we have 11 iron chickens, and those 11 iron chickens make 11 iron nuggets. I've tested it with the string, and the string seems to be doing the same. So I'm going to breed some more string chickens, and would you look at that? As we were saying, we got our blaze chicken. The only reason I realized was because I had 4 lava chickens and I shift clicked them in and they were dropping 4 at a time. So given that, we might want to delve into the chickens a little bit deeper when we set up some permanent automation for basic resources, as a stack of 64 chickens in a single roost would give us maybe a stack of whatever that resource is a second, which could be heavily reliable late game. And it's definitely something to look into. Alrighty, so it's finally time for the grand reveal. So this is the block palette I've chosen. It's just smooth gray concrete with smooth red concrete. Obviously I have more work to do, but I figured I'd just go ahead and make the block factory room look decent before the rest of the base. I'm kind of thinking I want to put this up a little bit higher than the rest, so we're going to have some stairs down, and obviously I have to move all that down later. But for starters, this is what it is. I would have loved to put another pillar here and here, but the obsidian furnace is in the way, so it is what it is. So we included a secret door, or I included a secret door here to get back to the back. It's a bit messy. It's just kind of wire everywhere. And then if we come over here, we will have where some of the automation's happening, and then the rest is with this furnace, for example, and other things. So the beginning of the system. How it works is we obviously have our farms, which we discussed last episode. And so what we've added a system to turn the beetroot into red dye through the enrichment chamber. These 2 crushers are crushing cobblestone into gravel and gravel into sand and storing them in the drawers. Right now we have a little bit of a storage problem, because, or a speed problem, because we don't have power to actually make them go any faster. But once this fills up to its limit of about 2,000, then this should start to fill as well, and then there'll be no issue. So anyways, getting a little ahead of myself, this is a RF Tools crafter. So you can basically give it recipes, and when it receives the resources, it will automatically craft the items that it has, the items to craft. So right now it's just set for red concrete and gray concrete, and it's set so that it doesn't have too many items come into its buffer. So then the next step is after it crafts, obviously we have our concrete and we put it through this system here, which is just a bulk washer to, well, turn it from this powder into the actual concrete that we can use with the table over there to make this wonderfully looking base. But how might we get the gray is what you're asking. So in the back here, we have millstones being fed with charcoal, which is we're getting from here. We're turning oak wood into charcoal, and then that charcoal is then being ground up in the millstones over here, and then output as black dye and gray dye. Then over here in this crafter, we're taking, well, bone meal and black dye and turning it into gray dye. At the moment, the bone meal is just manually supplied. When we get a storage system hooked up, we'll hook it all in so that it is fed in automatically. And then our wood is also limited so that we should always have 640 wood present at all times. Speaking of that, I could probably take the void upgrade out and put it in the saplings, as they're the ones that seem to occupy the system the most. And there's our cobblestone generator. I made a gold one for this to make sure that we would have plenty of cobblestone. The one other thing of this system is these. I wish that I could have just had a nice fluid system and not had anything show, but unfortunately the location of this, the portable storage interface, had to intersect with the cart, so we used some trapdoors as best we could to hide it. And if you're not really paying attention, then it's not completely noticeable. So that's our block factory done. I'm also using these illuminant blocks from Simply Light. They kind of give it the feel that I was looking for. So there we go. I'm also still tempted to go ahead and dig this up and dig that up and put some red pillars here just to keep with the design of the rest of it. Not quite sure. I don't really want to cover the furnace up, but also I think that that might just look a little bit better. I don't know. Maybe leave a comment. Let me know what you think, and we'll adjust it accordingly. But anyways, our next step after our next step since we have this all done is gonna be to work on storage, because not only that chest, but I've just been making more and more chests, and they're all filled with random amounts of junk. And so yeah, our next step is probably going to be to work towards applied energistics. This system over here is great, but our storage is probably the next major issue. And we're full on blaze rods, iron nuggets. These chickens have been hard at work over here. So AE2, what we require is actually a assembly line, because this AE, these calculation presses, if you look, the inscribers have been disabled and replaced with create sequenced crafting. And so what that means is basically you give it a resource and you have to use deployers and presses in order to get, let's say, the calculation press, or even the printed calculation circuit. We have to use a deployer with the calculation press on Certus Quartz crystal in order to get it. Again, the inscriber's been disabled. So this means we have to make an automated system for automating, I would say, most of the AE2 circuits, just so that we don't have to spend an extreme amount of time doing it. And where I would like to do this, I have yet to determine. I think I'm going to do a little bit more cleanup and get this looking a little better. Figure out how I'm going to tie it all into the base, and then branch off in another direction to start our AE automation. So after branching off the main hallway and digging out a little bit of room, I kind of have a general idea of what I want to do. I want to have a combination of presses and belts. The presses are going to be what takes the raw resources such as the silicon, diamond, gold, and Certus and presses it into our circuits. The silicon particularly, though, we are going to have 2 of, as all the other circuits will rely on that. Other than that, we're going to have 3 belts, each belt turning the pressed material into the actual usable circuits that we'll be using for crafting. I think I'm going to try to be using these depots here to limit the visual of the amount of cables and such, and then storing the materials in the barrels or drawers that I just placed down in the back. I'm going to try to do a lot of this underneath so that we don't see it, but time will tell how it goes, and I'll be back to explain how the system works once it's done. So after much struggles and honestly a little bit of BS-ery happening, I finally got this system working. So right now I have to manually supply it with redstone as we don't have it up, and silicon has to be manually supplied as well. But basically when the system's supplied with diamonds, silicon, gold, Certus, and redstone, it will automatically make all 3 of the circuits that we need for applied energistics. Down here in the basement, it's a little ugly. Didn't work on making this pretty, but we basically have more of these electric motors powering the whole shebang. I have XNet being used again right now, just 2 channels, so this one was pretty cheap. There's a little chest I can use to supply resources directly. Eventually, I'm going to put an AE interface here. But again, electric motors. We actually had to use 3 here. They're only using 30 FE per tick, so it's not a huge cost, but we did have to use 3 electric motors to power this. But I would say once we get the walls all beautied up, I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. I wish the boards weren't hidden back behind there, but really there's not a lot, or sorry, the drawers weren't hidden back behind these things, but there's really not a lot we can do. They're still there, they're visible. And then off of here, I'm going to open up the room a little bit more. This is where we're going to put our ME controller and go ahead and make our ME system be alive. Alrighty, so now that we have our automation room set up, it's time to get started with a little bit of other things. So the first step is to go ahead and get ourselves a few charge crystals. We're probably going to go for about 8 or so. This will give us enough to get plenty of fluix, which we're going to need for our cables and a few other crafts while doing AE. And 7 and 8. So the next thing we want to do is we want to throw this in water with nether quartz and redstone dust. So if we run over to the chest and grab 8 of those and 8 of that, and obviously find a bucket in this mess of things. Wow, the buckets were all the way out here. So we're going to throw 8 of those, 8 of those, and 8 of those. Whoop. And there we go. It's pretty quick. Almost instantly, I would say. So the next step, as we don't particularly need any of these beginning items, I might be interested in the energy cell a little bit later. But our next step is to go ahead and turn this into the crystals. To do that, we have to craft it with a little bit of sand. And we'll just go ahead and throw it on in the enrichment chamber, because the alternative is to wait for it to sit in water for 20 minutes. And definitely don't want to do that. So let's go ahead and throw 16 in there. Or actually, we'll throw it all. And this will get us our crystals, which is what we're going to need for our P2P terminals, annihilation planes, stuff like that. Next step is we want to get some quartz out of here to start making some fiber with it. So we get the quartz and a little bit of glass. We'll leave 1 in there just so we have an even amount. And throw that on in, and there we go. We have 9 quartz fiber. When we craft that with these fluix crystals that are crafting over here, we'll be able to get our cables, which is the beginning of AE basically. These are the very basic ones. They're not very efficient, and they don't support a lot of channels, but as we're just getting started, it's not really a big deal. The next thing we're going to have to figure out how to get is sky stone, and I have a feeling we've been making plenty of it. So let me just get 4 sky stone from over here, throw it on in the smelter, and there we go. So now that that's done, the only thing that we need now is an engineer's press, which again happens to be downstairs. So let's go ahead and run on over here. I crafted a few just to be ready for this, so we're going to grab all 3 out of there. And so now we should be able to make our ME controller. Next step is a disk drive, which we can go ahead and grab as well. And then the crafting terminal. Craft that together with the things, the annihilation cores and such. And now we have our ME crafting terminal. And now really this is all we need for a basic system. ME drive, crafting terminal, ME controller. Now, obviously it would help if we had some drives, so let me get my logic processors out and let's go ahead and make some 1Ks. 3 1Ks. And then we turn those 3, hold on. Let's grab a calculation press, or calculation, and craft that together. And we get our 4K ME storage drive. The next step is to go ahead and combine it with a drive. So let's go ahead and do that. And now we have our 4K ME storage drive. I'm gonna go ahead and make another 1K, maybe a couple more 1Ks, just to make sure that we have enough. And we'll go ahead and just use our crafting table up here to craft one more 1K. And with this, we can combine it. There we go. We now have a 4K and 2 1Ks. So let's go ahead and go down and set this up. Clear out our inventory a little bit, and if we have our quest book on us, which we do, I am sure we have some quests to claim as well. So I'm just going to put the ME drive here. We'll throw our storage drives in it, run a little flux cable off the top, and there we go. Now the last step is to supply this with power, which we should have an extra flex point to plug into the back, select our network, and there we go. We now have an ME storage. So I can just go ahead and drop all of these things in there. Let's organize our inventory so it's a bit quicker. And there we go. I think this is a little bit tall. I guess we either use tall or small. So small it is. Sort by number of items, obviously. And sort it that way. So we now have our computer system. So it's been a while since I've really opened this quest book. I was looking at this. We never made a chicken chaser. I probably should, just to get the quests, as we've already crafted the chicken and bred the chicken and all that. So that would be some free things to claim. It looks like we have a variety of ME quests to claim. A few create quests for the electric motor. It sounds like there's a steam engine and an alternator as well. Power, our battery, of course. In Botania, we made floral fertilizer earlier to get yellow dye. So we're just going to claim all these rewards. A mana diamond, fluid cell, dielectric, a straw, advanced item collector, a terra steel ingot, and an illuminate column. Well, as we do, we were just going to throw all of that in there. Looks like we actually got some chocolate cake, which I will partake in. So now that our chest is empty, I'm going to work for the next few moments to get everything transferred down into the system so we don't have to run around between 18 chests constantly. Alright, and there we go. No more chests, at least not a ton of them. I mean, we still got this and all the rest. We'll probably take a few of these things out just to have the crafting resources available inside the terminal. But apart from that, most of the other things are going to stay for now. And also, I feel like we're getting a little close to the wrapping up point. I believe that I do want to end it with a bang, though. I'm going to take this chance cube, and We don't look to have any loot boxes, but we're going to take this and we'll go out to the end. And do we just break it? Whew. A stack of arrows. Wow. That was a bit of a fright. But nothing terrible, it seems. And we will just go ahead and set and teleport back on home. This episode, we were able to get a lot done. We got our block factory going so that we can actually make our base look like this instead of, well, a bunch of stone in the ground. And we were also able to get this automation set up for create. We also even got our basic computer system down. Next episode, we'll be expanding on that and maybe even delving into a little bit of auto crafting as well. But thank you everybody for watching, and I'll see you next time.